Hello, in this video I would like to share some theories, speculations and ideas regarding Danganronpa F Shattered Hope. Spoiler warning for Chapter 1, Episode 8. Please don't watch this video until you've made sure to watch that episode. First of all, I would like to thank the creators and the entire team behind Danganronpa F Shattered Hope and for their dedication and their work in this fan project. During this video, I will also discuss some meta aspects of the story and share some thoughts regarding the story itself. Please keep in mind that I made this video simply for fun, as a simple viewer and follower of the project, and should not be taken very seriously. I obviously look forward to whatever the creators behind the project have in mind. Now let's begin. The title of this video is Who Will Be the First to Die? Of course, that refers to who will be the first to die by execution, as at the end of episode 8, the first victim of the killing game is revealed. In this video, I would like to take a look at each suspect in turn and settle on some top suspects. I would also like to share observations, speculations and theories regarding the certain actions done by the killer and basically do an armchair psychological analysis of the killer based on those actions. I won't present much evidence, instead I will mostly try to figure out what the possibilities are and pick some most likely ones. Obviously, since we don't even have an investigation yet, I may turn out to be completely wrong in my analysis and speculations, so keep that in mind. Chapter 1, Episode 8 of Shattered Hope has been published for some time now, and many other people in the community have already made important observations and shared interesting ideas and theories regarding the murder. At this point, I will piggyback off some of those ideas and share my own thoughts or elaborate on them. In the description of this video, I will link another good video with a theory regarding a possible suspect for the first murder, which was made by Liam Lestin. Some of the ideas I will talk about were mentioned by him in more detail, so I recommend you watch that video as well. With that being said, let's begin. First of all, let's quickly review the events of episode 8. We begin with Rox and Enigma having a chat in the morning in the kitchen, where Rox tells him about her brother's suicide. She mentions that she hasn't told anyone in the killing game of this yet. Then Rule presents the first motive, poison, threatening all of them with death if they don't kill someone. Enigma, Cancel, Rissi and maybe also Pocket seem to be the most affected by the poison, and Scarlet tries to do her best to take care of mainly the first three. During the evening, everyone separates to do their own thing, and Rox, Enigma, Corza, Rissi, Rock and later Pocket meet up in the dining hall for a little party. Nothing much happens during this party except for the fact that Rissi apparently gets drunk on juice due to placebo. Pocket is also apparently served a non-alcoholic drink by Rock. After a while, they decide to go to sleep. The last time we see Rox alive, she tells Enigma to smile, as she liked seeing the fun part of him. Enigma is left alone in the dining hall to clean up, and is hit unconscious by someone. Rock wakes him up, but he claims he didn't see anyone. After that, Enigma goes to question the others to see if they know anything, but he gets no useful information, so he just gives up and goes to sleep. In the morning, the poison symptoms are gone, and Enigma goes to the dining hall, where most of the players are already present. At this point, I'm pretty sure most of us watching the episode paused to see who was missing. The four missing people were of course Rock, Cross, and Anon. Shortly after this, Rule makes the body discovery announcement, and Corza and Enigma find Rox's body in room 1B. Rock, Cross, and Anon were the first three to discover the body. The first thing we can notice is the time of death, between the time when everyone at the party separated and the morning. After the party ended, Rox was supposedly going to help Rissi to get to her room and agreed with Corza it was a good idea to go to sleep, but we don't actually know what she did afterwards. Basically, I can see two options. Rox was killed or abducted shortly after leaving the party, maybe right after she left Rissi in her room, or Rox went to her own room or some other place after dealing with Rissi and was killed during the night when everyone was asleep. There is an important distinction, because in the first case, Rox's murder or abduction happened while people were still hanging around. Maybe it even happened as Enigma was asking people about his attack. And if the latter is the case, does that mean the killer met with Rox by coincidence during the night when there was no one around? Or maybe the killer lured her out of her room somehow? Enigma's attack may help us from a time frame. When Enigma was going around talking to people about his attack, we don't actually know who it was he talked to or who was still awake and out of the room at that point. But I assume we'll get more information on this later. We can, however, make a few inferences. In the morning, Moraiteru tells Enigma that the others were informing Cancel and her of his attack last night, so it's safe to assume that Cancel and Moraiteru never met with anyone between the time of Enigma's attack and the morning, or at least they claim they didn't. Since Cancel was one of the people most affected by the poison, she probably never left her room during the evening or night of the murder. Also, before everyone went to do their own thing and before the party in the dining hall, Moraiteru told everyone she would go to sleep early, so she also stayed in her room. As such, it does make sense for Cancel and Moraiteru to have stayed in their rooms the entire time during the evening and night of the murder. Cross was also probably by himself in his room in order to protect himself from being targeted after antagonizing the group. Anon mentions several times that he likes to be alone and prefers to stay in his room. The last time we see him is right before everyone splits up. This is when he tells the group that they could consider killing in order to survive, and Grisp yells at him. So it's likely Anon locks himself in his room after this interaction. I believe that Rox is also one of the people that was not around when Enigma was questioning people about his attack. The reason I think this is simply because if Enigma met with Rox, we would have probably been shown that scene, as it would be the last conversation with her before she died. She could have been off doing something else at that point, but after the party, she agreed with Corza about going to bed. Anyway, the topic of the last time Rox was seen alive will likely be something they talk about during the investigation. In conclusion, it's likely that after Enigma's attack, Moraiteru, Cancel, Cross, Anon, and Rox were in their room sleeping or in some other unknown location. It's possible other people were also not around when Enigma was talking to the others about his attack and were sleeping at that point. Rissi, for example. They could have been informed of the attack in the morning before the meeting in the dining hall. For now, this is not really reliable information, but it does give us some sort of indication of what everyone's alibi will be. Now, I would like us to take a look at the murder scene. Many people have already made some important observations and made significant deductions relating to this. Here are some of the obvious observations we can make. Rox's body was found in room 1B, the same room Corza was subjected to the second sacrifice game by Rue. Rox was hanged with rope. There is tape covering her mouth. Her hands are tied up on her back with rope. There are bruises on her arms. Cross and Anon are looking at Rock, and Rock is looking at Rox with a fearful expression. Cross's look is quite accusatory. Although this doesn't seem like much, we can make some simple deductions if we put ourselves in the mind of the killer and think about the possible motives behind his actions. First of all, let's talk about the victim. Why did the killer target Rox? 1. It's possible the killer would have been okay with killing anyone in order to survive or to save the others, and Rox was chosen by chance or due to an opportunity revealing itself. 2. The killer wanted to frame Cross. 3. The killer wanted information out of Rox. 4. The killer suspected her of being a traitor. 5. The killer remembered something in regards to Rox and killed her as a revenge for something she did previous to the killing game. For example, Rox wrote a bad article about Pocket or Yaxi, and one of them killed her as revenge. 6. The killer feared what she might know or remember eventually. For example, let's say Rissi is actually a serial killer that was in prison, and feared Rox would eventually remember that fact. Or 7. The killer murdered her specifically for having knowledge of Monokuma. I can honestly think of any one of these as being the case. The most pressing aspect of the murder seems to be the fact that it partially replicates the suicide of Rox's brother. But why would the killer want to do that? There are several possibilities which are heavily connected to the possible motives for choosing Rox as a victim. 1. It was a coincidence. This possibility seems unlikely, as there have to be easier ways to kill someone. I'm sure, for example, there is a knife in the kitchen somewhere, and the killer could have used that if he wanted to. However, it could end up being a tragic coincidence if the murder was not planned and just made in the heat of the moment. For example, the rope could have just ended up in some way at the crime scene. Maybe the killer wanted to use it for something, or Rox had it with her, or Rule just gave it to them when she knows that two people having an argument in room 1B. 2. It was meant as a warning to Enigma or the others, or someone else was meant to be the victim, possibly Enigma, and the murder was supposed to be a warning to Rox. Considering that Enigma was attacked, it's possible that Rox bumped into the person who attacked Enigma in the act, and the killer had to change targets and go after Rox herself. 3. It was meant to frame Enigma, who is the only person who knows about Rox's murder, and he might just give himself away mentioning that Rox told him. 4. Rox was being mentally tortured for information. Or 5. The killer wanted to inflict mental pain on Rox as revenge. Let's talk about each one of these possibilities in more detail. If the killer planned the murder and it wasn't just an argument which escalated, then the killer probably murdered Rox in a way that would make her remember her brother, which would be a rather cruel thing to do. That would suggest a more personal motive behind the murder, namely possibilities 2 and 5. Possibility 4 also seems likely to me, as Rox had information that she didn't want to share with the others about Monokuma. Also, as a journalist, she had the talent of extracting information out of other people. Pairing that with her reticence to share some of her own info and the desperate situation they were in with the poison and deteriorated health of some of the others, it could have motivated some people to take drastic measures. The tape on Rox's mouth seems to contradict this possibility, but it's possible the killer taped her mouth after he interrogated her. Point 3 seems a little unlikely to me, as a simpler way to frame someone would be to just plant some evidence, and on a superficial level, Rox's murder would make people suspect Cross. If it wasn't a tragic coincidence that Rox was killed similarly to how her brother died, then the killer would have needed something else than the motive to commit the murder, and that is knowledge. Rox tells Enigma of her brother in the morning, so how did the killer learn about it? Here are the possibilities that Liam Lestin has already pointed out, plus some others that I can also think of. 1. The killer is either Rox or Enigma, the two people who are confirmed to have the necessary knowledge. 2. The killer heard Rox and Enigma talking in the kitchen. In his video, Liam Lestin considered this as the most likely scenario and identifies Yaxi as the most likely person to listen in on them, because she's been shown to be pretty sneaky. I would like to offer another likely suspect. The person who overheard their conversation doesn't necessarily have to be close by. Some of the walls are thin and the normal conversation in the woman's bathroom could be heard from the incinerator. This could also be the case here. Also, maybe someone with a good hearing and who frequents the dining hall often could have overheard it. Someone like a voice actor with the munchies perhaps? Number 3. Rox told the killer about her brother after she told Enigma. Certainly this is possible after, say, an evening of drinking and opening up with one another. In this case, the killer would likely be someone close to Rox or someone she trusted, and also someone who possibly participated at the party in the dining hall. 4. Rule told the killer about Rox's brother. You might dismiss this as unlikely at first, as Rule might not want to intervene so much. But what if Rule told the killer or made the killer remember it right in front of everyone as a sort of punishment for failing the sacrifice game? That would certainly be possible, right? 5. The killer remembered Rox and her brother's suicide. The characters seem to have selective amnesia, and their memory seems to come back when they see or experience something to trigger it. For example, Cancel explains to Enigma that when she saw her talent on her tablet, she remembered about being a diviner. Also, during the evocation talk, Enigma remembers more details about his kidnapping after hearing the others talk about the moment of their kidnapping. During the same talk, it is also suggested that memories of each other have been erased. It's possible that someone's memory was triggered by a talk or an event and targeted Rox because of what they remembered. Considering all of these, I would like to define 3 main possible profiles for the killer. 1. The passion killer. This would be someone who bumped into Rox in the evening or during the night, possibly saw her doing something suspicious and got into an argument with her, which escalated into murder. This type of killer would likely be under extreme emotional pressure from being confined in the academy and away from their loved ones, from seeing the others having deteriorating health due to the poison, and or fearing for their own life. This would most likely not be someone who initially planned the murder, because if they wanted to kill someone, they probably would have chosen a better murder weapon. 2. The cold killer. This would be a killer who most likely wanted information out of Rox, but could also be someone connected to the killing game itself. The killer could have kept Rox alive for a while and used the threat of hanging to mentally torture Rox for information. The killer would be someone who planned the murder and targeted Rox from the beginning, because of her suspicious actions and her knowledge of Monokuma, which she was unwilling to share with the others. This would have to be someone who was aware of her brother, as it would be too much of a coincidence to use the threat of hanging as a way to torture information out of her. The killer might also have wanted to start the killing game. 3. The Vengeful Killer. This killer would be someone who remembered something from their past which caused them to start hating Rox for some reason. When looking at the list of suspects, I can honestly see each one of them fitting into at least one of these profiles. Putting the profiles aside for a moment, let's also consider what else we know about the murder. The room in which the body was discovered, the rope and the tape. All three are interesting pieces of evidence. Room 1B is the room in which Corza was punished after not participating in the second sacrifice game, and it is also one of the rooms eligible to have soundproofing. The dorm, lounge area, bathrooms, incinerator and dining hall are confirmed by rule to not have soundproofing. It's likely room 1B is the room where Rox was killed, and if it does have soundproofing, then it would be the perfect room for an interrogation. In regards to the rope, many people have already pointed out a likely source for it, namely the warehouse in the gym. One other source could also be someone's dormitory. Just like how Enigma has some posters in his dorm and Scarlet has a shelf with wine as her preferred treat, someone may also have some rope in their dorm to reflect their talent or personality. I could see this being the case with Grisp or Rock. Another more out there source for the rope that I would like to suggest is the kitchen, and I will get to my reason for including this as a possibility when talking about Rissi getting drunk. The killer taping Rox's mouth is also very interesting. If room 1B does turn out to have soundproofing, then why did the killer tape Rox's mouth? Maybe the killer didn't know about the room being soundproof, or maybe the killer taped her mouth after she died as a way to confuse the others. Or maybe the killer just wanted to prevent her from talking or make her stop pleading for her life. Another possibility is that the killer had to tape Rox's mouth to prevent her from screaming while going in and out of the room. But you'd think that after killing her, you wouldn't need the tape to tape her mouth again. So a slim possibility is that when the killer left the room, Rox was still alive inside, and so the killer had to tape her mouth to prevent her from screaming during the time the door was open. Then, after the killer left the room, Rox died because whatever she stood on fell. The bruising on Rox's arm could be a result of torture, but they seem more likely to be defensive wounds. This implies that Rox saw and fought back against her attacker, unlike Enigma. Since we're on the subject of Enigma's attacker, let's consider who that might be and why they attacked him. First of all, unlike Rox's murder, which could have happened during the night with no one around as a witness, Enigma was attacked during the evening, right after the party. Many people were still awake and out of their dorm rooms at that point, so there are 3 people which are most likely not the attacker. These are Moraiteru, Cancel and Cross. I've already mentioned why I think these 3 were in their room, and I will not remove Anon from the list of suspects, as unlike Anon, who's just a loner, Cross would definitely not go out of his room to attack someone with so many people still around to see him. Grisp and Yaxi seem to be the physically strongest of the group and would probably have no problems knocking out a person with just their fists, Also, it's easy to forget this because of his demeanor and chose a faction, but Pocket is a professional baseball player, so he is also likely an athletic person. However, I do believe that anyone could have done it if they have the weapon, even Rissi. In regards to the motive behind the attack, there might be three main possible reasons. 1. The attacker suspected Enigma and wanted to check his tablet or something. 2. The attacker wanted to kill Enigma but was interrupted by rocks. Or 3. The attacker wanted to access the dining hall or kitchen without any witnesses. It's possible the attacker was Rox because she suspected Enigma of being the mastermind or a traitor, and maybe she wanted to check his pockets or something. In her free time event with Enigma, Rox suggests at a possible suspicion towards Enigma. However, we don't know if Rox had a specific suspicion against him or was just cautious of people in general. Also, if Rox is the attacker, then her final words towards Enigma get a different meaning, as after she tells him to smile more, Enigma lets his guard down and gets attacked. But for now, I'm leaning towards the notion that it was someone else who attacked Enigma. Maybe someone who wasn't even present at the party. For example, the killer could have wanted to access the kitchen or to look outside the window in the dining hall, or maybe to access a hidden area connected to the kitchen, but didn't want anyone to see them, so they were waiting for everyone to leave in room 1B. However, seeing that Enigma was dilly-dallying, they ran out of patience or time and decided to knock him out. A less suspicious but still notable event that happened up to the murder is Rissi getting drunk during the party. Many have mentioned the possibility of her faking getting drunk in order to make the others let their guard down. Since Rock handled the drinks, it's also possible that he gave her an alcoholic drink, either by accident or on purpose. Finally, it could have also been just a placebo effect, or maybe she was really faking it but not for any nefarious reasons. For now, I think that the most likely scenario is that Rissi was indeed served alcohol by accident. The reason for that is because the killer faking being drunk, or purposely getting someone else drunk as part of their murder plan seems a bit weird and unnecessary. But what if it was more than just an accident? I know this is a leap, but what if there is more to the function to order food using the tablet that we know of so far? It is, after all, a hidden function provided to them by rule. Maybe the function to order food on the tablet works in a different way than we know so far, and maybe you can use it to order something else other than food. Maybe you can also use it to order poison or different kind of weapons or tools, and the cast just didn't figure it out yet. This would 1. Hint towards a reason for why Rock was given alcohol when he ordered a non-alcoholic drink. For example, maybe the orders get mixed up a little after someone orders a rope to be delivered. And 2. Fit with the third possible motive for Enigma's attack. The attacker wanted to access the kitchen without being seen in order to use the tablet to order a dangerous object from the kitchen. Still, although this might be an interesting idea, there is nothing to indicate it so far. And it could just be that we're overthinking things and Rock simply ordered Rissi, something that he thinks is non-alcoholic but actually contains alcohol, because he's a complete airhead. Now let's take a look at the suspects one by one. First of all, for meta reasons, I don't think the killer is a girl. That's because if the killer was a girl, then in chapter 2 we'd be down to 4 girls and 8 guys. And I think the writer would usually try to keep a somewhat gender balance between the characters. I admit that for this reason alone, I also expected the first victim to be a guy. Specifically, Enigma, Anon, Corza and Rock were my first picks. So Rock's being the first victim really surprised me. But maybe that's the point, and we should consider that such rules are being thrown out the window. So because of that, and also because I don't want to rely on meta reasoning, I will include the girls in the suspect list. Let's start with the victim, Rox. Similarly to other people, I do not think she committed suicide. Although she is shown to be protective of Rissi, she seems motivated to confront the killing game and the mastermind with the others, and I believe she would not commit suicide using the same method as her brother. Also, it would probably be extremely difficult to tie up your own hands on your back, as we see in the body discovery scene. So that indicates that at least one other person has to be involved in her death, even if she did somehow commit suicide. That is not to say, however, that Rox has not acted in some suspicious manner occasionally. Enigma himself points this out in her free time event. She explains that sometimes she makes rash decisions, and it could be just that, but someone who didn't had that sort of talk with her might see her in a different light. She and Corza know more than the others, and she is keen to defend him after his second sacrifice game, when Cross insists of him sharing his information with the others. Her attitude to not share some of her information paired with her talent to extract information of the others could rub a lot of people the wrong way. In a way, you could say that she had a target at her back ever since the prologue when she attacked Monokuma. Perhaps she was meant to be the first victim from the beginning. Cancel, I believe, is the least likely person to be the killer. She was one of the people heavily affected by the poison, and even if she was faking it, Scarlet and the others were keeping an eye on her. So even if her condition gave her more of a motive to kill someone in order to save herself, I believe it also limited her movements enough to cross her off the suspect list. Of course, it's possible Rox left her room during the night, and Cancel happened to run across her and kill her, but that could apply to anyone. Also, you might consider me to be foolish, but I believe Cancel's reaction to the body discovery announcement seemed genuine. Pocket is also someone whose reaction to the body discovery announcement I believe to be genuine. I didn't really find any evidence against Pocket, and considering his personality, he might not have the courage to kill someone. But we shouldn't judge by appearances, and maybe he has a talent for acting. It could be that he learned or remembered something which set him off, or he simply did it to save himself. Interestingly, Pocket talks about his dislike for journalists in his social butterfly event with Rox. Furthermore, Pocket was on friendly relations with Rox, so he could have lured her into a trap. I will be more suspicious of Pocket if during the investigation he will be aggressively accusatory of Cross. Also, he would be a very good fit for the vengeful killer. Perhaps he remembered that the whole reason he dislikes the journalist is because Rox herself wrote a damaging article on him. Rissi is not one of the people I suspect. We have already talked about her getting drunk. From what we have been presented so far, she probably wouldn't kill someone to escape, even considering her family situation. She will likely have an important testimony during the investigation. The only way I can see her being the killer is if she is faking her personality and is eventually revealed as a cold killer. Scarlet, although has been shown to be very motivated to stay alive, was very busy during the day with taking care of everyone, so she would probably have had limited time to prepare or plan her murder. I do see her as someone capable of kidnapping someone and mentally scarring them in order to test them or extract information out of them. But at this point, I think Corza or Anon would be one of her more likely targets. Moraiteru is also someone seemingly motivated to stay alive and has acted rather chaotically at times up to the murder. Right after her spat with Yaxi and before everyone splits up, she says she'll go to sleep. I believe Moraiteru didn't actually go to sleep, at least not right away. She probably recognized this evening as being the most likely time for someone to kill someone, so she did the smart thing and locked herself in her room. Her telling the others to watch out for Yaxi could have simply been a spiteful way to divert attention from herself, or maybe she really did see Yaxi do something suspicious. Liam Lestin brings up a very good case against Yaxi in his video. To his arguments, I'd like to add a piece of circumstantial evidence. In her free time event with Enigma, Yaxi says she has a problem with people bottling things up inside, and that's probably why she doesn't get along with Moraiteru. But there are other people who are also bottling things up. Anon, Corza, Cross, and Rocks. Furthermore, if you go back at the scene of the dining hall meeting the morning of the murder, you'll notice Yaxi doesn't say anything before the body discovery announcement. All she says is "Oh God" right after the announcement, with real fear in her voice. It's a really chilling voice line. Was she afraid because a murder has taken place, or because the person she killed has finally been discovered? Or maybe she was afraid because she knew she had Rocks locked up in room 1B to interrogate her during the night and left her there with a noose around her neck as a scare tactic. But now that she heard the body discovery announcement, she knew it was probably Rocks who was dead. Yaxi also has a strong motive to kill, which is ironically her desire to save everyone. Yaxi kinda fits all three of my profiles. I don't believe Enigma is the killer. Yes, there have been stories where the main character doesn't tell the reader or player everything, and it's later revealed that they were the killer. However, I don't think this will be the case in here, because of his inner monologue and him being incapacitated during some time. Although Enigma being the killer would be more probable if Rocks turns out to be the one who attacked him. For Grisp, I don't really have any specific reason to suspect him or not suspect him. He could be skilled in handling rope. On the other hand, he shows himself to be someone very opposed to killing. An important detail to note about him is that he was hanging out in the dorm's lounge area when everyone was at the party, as specified by Pocket. Twin. There is no strong evidence against him, but he is someone with a strong motive and possibly someone with the mental states necessary to kill someone. In his various interactions with others, he reveals that even though he doesn't present himself as a very smart person, he is quite perceptive. Also, he admits that he is very lonely. Rissi is probably his first genuine friend in a long time, so he could be motivated to kill for her sake. Furthermore, when he talks to Rissi, he praises her for being open with her feelings, unlike himself, meaning that he hides his feelings from others. Feelings like considering to murder to save someone else, perhaps? During the morning meeting in the dining hall, right before the body discovery announcement, he acts fairly normal by distracting the others from the important and scary talk. It might not be a big thing, but right after the body discovery announcement, he approves of Rissi's denial of the situation. This is slightly different from the time he heard Pocket scream after discovering the bodies of the two girls in the entrance of the elevator. Then Tune immediately got serious and told Rissi that they should go towards the scream. But this is not a big thing. I also have some suspicions about Twin being the mastermind or a traitor, which I intend to present in another video. Anyway, I think the mastermind or traitor, if they exist, might have a reason to kill Rocks for her knowledge of Monokuma. Furthermore, I know I said it's a leap, but if you can use the order function on the tablet to order something other than food, who would be the most likely person to notice it? The person who uses the function the most, right? In that case, Twin and possibly Scarlet, who cooks a lot, would be the two most likely candidates. Also, this is not a big reason, but it seems a bit strange that he did not attend the party before the murder with everyone else, considering Rissi was also there. Other than that, he could also be someone with the ability and opportunity to overhear Rox and Enigma in the kitchen. And although it would be a cruel thing to do, he could have tortured her for information. Something like, Rissi is suffering and you're still keeping things from us? Now, let's talk about Corza. When I think of who is the person most likely to want to torture Rox for information, or the person with the biggest opportunity to do so, I can only think of Corza. After all, it would make sense that the person with more knowledge than the others about Monokuma was killed by the person with more knowledge than the others about Rule, right? The main reason I suspect Corza is his participation in the second sacrifice game, and his subsequent punishment by Rule. And although the others know he knows stuff about Rule, he probably knows more than what the others suspect he knows, if that makes sense. It would be in Rule's character for the punishment to be further incentive and opportunity to kill someone. The incentive to kill could be Corza remembering everything, information about the others, including information regarding Rox's brother, or just something that would change his perspective on the killing game and the others around him. The opportunity to kill could simply be a showcase of certain functions of Room 1B that would help carry out a murder in it. For example, the room could be soundproof or have a hidden passage or stash of weapons hidden somewhere. Or maybe there is a remote for the trapdoor which made him fall in the sacrifice game area. Now we're left to talk about the three people who first discovered the body. All three of them are suspicious in their own way. We could be tempted to cross off our suspect list since he would be too obvious, but I could see Cross being the killer if he could manage to produce compelling evidence against another person or to force the actual killing role upon someone else. In his introduction with Enigma, Cross talks about the importance of taking risks. In a way, committing murder after you've antagonized the group and killing the person who you have the biggest problem with would be a major risk, one that the ultimate entrepreneur might take. The only problem with Cross being the killer is that if he was running around while everyone was still awake, he would stand out, and I still believe it's more likely he locked himself in his room out of fear of being targeted. If Cross is the killer or orchestrated the killing, then it would have to have happened during the night. Rock. Although it pains me to say, Rock is very suspicious. All the time up till now, he's been trying to gain Enigma's trust by offering trust. Also, he has repeatedly talked to the others about not killing and the importance of everyone deciding not to kill. But that could also be him trying to convince himself not to do it. In his free time events with Enigma, he implies that something happened to his family. Although we might think that they died, it's also possible that they are in a very precarious situation and Rock is urgently needed to take care of them, similar to Rissi's situation. This would give him a big motive to kill someone and cause him enormous emotional pressure. My main reason for suspecting Rock is Cross's accusatory look towards him and Rock's fearful expression towards Rox's body. It implies that Rock was the first to discover the body and that Cross saw him act in a sort of suspicious way. During the party, Rock is the one to handle the drinks and he is also the one to find Enigma. I do think that a killer wouldn't choose to stay behind and wake up an unconscious person as having no witnesses would be more advantageous. So if he did murder Rox, it's possible it was not planned. As such, one scenario for Rock being the killer is if Rox was the one who attacked Enigma, or if Rox was lurking around in the dining hall after the attack. For example, after Enigma leaves Rock in the dining hall, Rock is still worried and decides to look around for any clues. That's when he notices someone lurking in room 1B and discovers Rox in there with a bat or some sort of weapon. He questions Rox, but she doesn't want to say anything, so they start an argument which escalates to him killing her. I can also see a possibility in which Rock could be an unwilling killer. This is just speculation which is not based on anything at this point, but one possibility would be that the killer simply wanted to start the killing game by forcing someone else to kill, or wanted to effectively kill Rox without becoming the Blackened. One easy way to achieve this would be to tie Rox up in room 1B, leave her on top of a chair or some other object, and leave the door to the room ajar in order to lure the others into the room. Then the next person to open the door would trigger some sort of trap which would be used to knock Rox off her chair and kill her. I could see Corza or Cross being the masterminds behind the murder, and Rock being the unlucky person who triggered the trap. Finally, there is Anon. He tells Rox that she doesn't have to worry about him. From the beginning, he seems to accept the situation of the killing game rather passively. He describes himself as a normal person, and from his various interactions it is implied that he doesn't really have much support from his family, and that throughout his life those around him didn't think he'd be able to do much for himself, sort of like the black sheep of a family. In a way, he is the opposite of Rock. He doesn't offer trust and doesn't expect trust in return. He seems to value self-reliance, but this may also make him act a little selfishly at times. He can also be a little creepy on occasions, which I suspect he actually takes a little pleasure from. Right now, however, he is not someone I particularly suspect. He has done something suspicious during the first day of the killing game, but I don't think that's related to Rox's murder, so I'll leave that for another video. In conclusion, I would say that my top suspects at the moment for being the killer would be Pocket as the vengeful killer, but my heart tells me it's not him, Rock as the passion killer, or the unlucky person who had the role of the killer forced upon him, Corza as a likely suspect for the cold killer who would want information out of Rox, and Twin as any profile. He would be the most likely suspect if my theory about the secret function of the tablet turns out to be true. That's it. Thank you for indulging me with my thoughts about the killer of the first chapter, and of course thank you to the Shattered Hope team. I wish you all the best.